Conflict has always driven innovation, especially in weaponry. From sharpened flint to modern tech, the quest for battlefield dominance has shaped human history. But not every idea was a success. Many weapons were too heavy, too complex, or simply too dangerous for their own users. For every game-changing design, countless others ended up as spectacular failures. Today, we explore the cautionary tales of military miscalculation, where ambition outpaced engineering, and reality crushed grand designs. These are the stories of history's most ill-conceived weapons. The Tsar tank was Russia's answer to early armored warfare, a giant tricycle of war with two massive front wheels that towered over anything else on the battlefield. At first glance, it looked like something out of a science fiction novel, a machine so audacious that it seemed destined to change the face of war forever. Its sheer size and unusual design captured the imagination of military engineers and the public alike, promising a new era of unstoppable armored vehicles. But behind those enormous wheels was a tiny rear roller, almost comically small compared to the rest of the machine. This single, undersized wheel was tasked with supporting the entire rear of the tank, a design choice that would soon prove disastrous. The creators of the Tsar tank envisioned it as a mobile fortress, bristling with guns and armor, able to roll over trenches, barbed wire, and even small buildings. Its armaments were impressive for the time, with multiple machine guns and cannons mounted on its frame, giving it the firepower to dominate any battlefield. The hope was that its massive wheels would allow it to simply roll over obstacles that would stop conventional tanks in their tracks. When Tsar Nicholas II saw a scale model of the tank at a military exhibition, he was so taken with the concept that he immediately approved funding for a full-scale prototype. The project quickly became a symbol of Russian innovation and ambition, with the Tsar himself eager to see his empire lead the world in military technology. The real thing was even more impressive than the model. Its front wheels measured an astonishing 9 meters in diameter, taller than a two-story house. The entire vehicle weighed in at 60 tons, a behemoth of steel and iron. To power this monster, engineers installed engines salvaged from downed German Zeppelins, hoping their strength would be enough to move the tank's massive bulk. In the summer of 1915, after months of feverish construction, the prototype finally rolled out for its first test. Engineers, soldiers, and curious onlookers gathered to witness what they hoped would be a revolution in armored warfare. The tank's engines roared to life and the giant wheels began to turn, slowly propelling the machine forward. At first, the Tsar tank seemed to live up to its promise. It easily flattened a tree in its path, crushing obstacles that would have stopped lesser vehicles. The crowd watched in awe as the tank demonstrated its raw power, and for a brief moment it seemed as if the future of warfare had arrived. But that triumph was short-lived. As the tank moved on to softer ground, the small rear wheel, bearing much of the vehicle's weight, began to sink into the mud. The design flaw that had been overlooked in the excitement of construction now became painfully obvious. The giant front wheels spun helplessly, unable to gain traction as the rear roller dug deeper and deeper into the earth. The tank, once a symbol of unstoppable force, was now completely immobilized, trapped by the very ground it was meant to conquer. For weeks, engineers and soldiers tried everything they could think of to free the stranded tank. They brought in extra engines, tried to reinforce the ground, and even attempted to dig the rear wheel out by hand. But nothing worked. The engines simply weren't powerful enough, and the tank's weight distribution was fatally flawed from the start. Eventually, the Tsar tank was abandoned where it stood, left to rust in the forest as a silent monument to overambition and the dangers of ignoring basic engineering principles. Over time, the once mighty machine was swallowed by weeds and trees, its hulking frame slowly decaying in the Russian wilderness. Years later, the remains of the Tsar tank were finally dismantled and scrapped, having never fired a shot in anger or seen a single day of combat. Its story became a cautionary tale for future generations of engineers and military planners. The lesson of the Tsar tank is clear. Bigger isn't always better, especially when the laws of physics are ignored. Many other oversized military machines would follow, but few would fail as spectacularly as the Tsar tank. The Tsar tank's story is a powerful reminder that even the most impressive and ambitious concepts can collapse under the weight of their own flaws. No matter how grand the vision, reality always has the final say. Sometimes the greatest enemy isn't the opposing army, but the ground beneath your feet, the unyielding mud and earth that can bring even the mightiest machines to a halt. Today, all that remains of the Tsar tank are a handful of photographs, blueprints, and stories, a dream that was simply too big and too poorly balanced to survive the harsh test of reality. In the shadowy backstreets of 19th century Paris, a new weapon began to circulate among the city's most notorious street gangs. This was not a tool for soldiers or lawmen, but for those who lived by their wits and survived by intimidation. The Apache revolver, as it came to be known, was a symbol of the era's underworld, a weapon designed for those who needed to be ready for anything, at any moment. The Apache tried to be the ultimate multi-tool of violence. A compact revolver, a set of brass knuckles, and a folding knife, all ingeniously packed into a single, pocket-sized device. Its inventors imagined it as the perfect answer to the unpredictable dangers of the Parisian night, where a fight could break out in a heartbeat and escape routes were narrow and crowded. Small enough to hide in a coat pocket, yet menacing enough to frighten rivals, the Apache revolver seemed like the ideal companion for close-quarters survival. Its mere presence could turn the tide of a confrontation, giving its owner a psychological edge before a single shot was fired. But the dream of a do-it-all weapon quickly collided with the harsh realities of design. By cramming 3 distinct weapons into one, the Apache was forced to make serious compromises in every area. Each function suffered, and the result was a tool that was less than the sum of its parts. The revolver component, for instance, had no barrel at all. Bullets fired straight from the cylinder, which robbed them of power and made aiming almost pointless. Accuracy was a matter of luck, not skill, and the weapon's range was laughably short. The grip formed by the brass knuckles was another problem. It was uncomfortable and awkward, making it difficult to aim or fire with any precision. Worse, the sharp metal edges could dig painfully into the user's hand, especially in the chaos of a real fight. The folding knife, meant to be a last resort weapon, was flimsy and poorly secured. In the heat of the moment, it could easily fold back onto the user's own fingers, turning a desperate defense into a painful accident. Even the brass knuckles, which should have been the simplest part, were compromised. The weapon's awkward weight and shape made them less effective than a dedicated set, and the need to accommodate the revolver and knife meant they never quite fit the hand as they should. Reliability was another major issue. The Apache was notorious for jamming and misfiring, sometimes at the worst possible moment. In a life-or-death struggle, a weapon that fails is more dangerous to its owner than to any opponent. Despite all its flaws, the Apache revolver's greatest strength was its reputation. The sight of it was often enough to send a chill through a crowd or make an enemy think twice. Its legend grew, even as its practical value remained questionable. In the end, the Apache revolver became a cautionary tale, a weapon that tried to do everything, but ended up doing nothing well. It was soon outclassed by more specialized tools, left to gather dust as a relic of misguided ambition. Today, the Apache revolver stands as a warning from history. When it comes to tools of survival, specialization almost always beats versatility. In the world of weapons and perhaps in life itself, trying to be a jack of all trades can leave you mastering none, especially when lives are on the line. When World War I erupted, the world witnessed a brutal new kind of warfare, one that demanded rapid innovation and unprecedented firepower. France, facing the horrors of trench combat, sought a solution that could give its infantry an edge. Their answer was the Chauchat, a light machine gun designed to be carried and fired by a single soldier, promising mobility and increased firepower on the battlefield. The Chauchat was revolutionary for its time. It was cheap to produce, lightweight compared to other machine guns, and could be operated by just one person, making it ideal for the fast-moving, chaotic conditions of the front lines. On paper, the Chauchat seemed like the perfect weapon. Its design promised to change the way battles were fought, giving ordinary soldiers the power of a machine gun in their hands. But the reality on the battlefield was far different. The Chauchat quickly gained a reputation for being unreliable, and its flaws became painfully obvious under the harsh conditions of trench warfare. One of its most notorious features was the open-sided magazine. While this design was intended to let soldiers see how many rounds they had left, it became a fatal flaw. The open sides acted like scoops, collecting mud, dirt, and debris from the trenches, turning the gun into a jam-prone nightmare. Jams were not just frequent, they were constant. In the chaos of battle, a jammed chow shot could mean the difference between life and death. Soldiers often found themselves frantically trying to clear blockages while under fire, a situation that could prove fatal. The gun's construction was flimsy, with thin metal parts that bent or broke easily. Its recoil was harsh and difficult to control, making accurate fire nearly impossible for many soldiers. The chow shot was as fragile as it was unpredictable. When American troops entered the war, they were issued a version of the chow shot chambered for U.S. ammunition. Unfortunately, this only made things worse. The American model was even more prone to jamming and breakage, leaving soldiers frustrated and vulnerable. Many soldiers grew to despise the chow shot, often discarding it in favor of more reliable bolt-action rifles. In the heat of battle, trust in your weapon is everything, and the chow shot simply couldn't deliver. Over time, the chow shot's reputation only worsened. It became infamous among soldiers and historians alike as one of the worst machine guns ever made, a cautionary tale of how good intentions and poor execution can lead to disaster. The story of the chow shot is a harsh lesson in the importance of reliability. In war, a weapon that fails when you need it most is not just useless, it can be deadly. Ultimately, the chow shot stands as a stark reminder, in the unforgiving reality of combat, a weapon that lets you down is worse than having no weapon at all. The 1960s brought rocket fever, even to handguns. Enter the gyrojet pistol, a firearm that shot tiny rockets instead of bullets. The idea was futuristic, no recoil, lightweight, and simple construction. Each round was a self-propelled rocket, spinning for stability. But the gyrojet's rockets were slowest at the muzzle, making them weak at close range, exactly where pistols are used. Sometimes, the rockets failed to ignite or spun off course. Accuracy was poor, and reliability was worse. The gun's mechanism was easily fouled by rocket exhaust, leading to jams. Ammunition was expensive and hard to manufacture. The gyrojet looked cool in movies, but in real combat, it was a nightmare. Tested in Vietnam, it proved completely impractical. The gyrojet is a classic case of technology chasing novelty, not utility. Sometimes the old ways really are better. The urumi from India is part sword, part whip, a weapon as dangerous to its wielder as to any foe. It features multiple flexible steel blades, coiled like a belt when not in use. In skilled hands, it could create a deadly perimeter, slashing in wide arcs. But mastering the urumi is perilous. A single mistake can mean self-injury. Training starts with cloth before moving to steel, demanding near superhuman control. The urumi is useless for thrusting, poor for defense, and easily tangled in close quarters. Against armor, it's ineffective, its blades lack the force to penetrate. It's spectacular to watch, but its risk-to-reward ratio is extreme. The urumi is a testament to martial artistry, but as a practical weapon, it's fundamentally flawed. From the Tsar tank to the gyrojet, history's worst weapons teach us that innovation is messy. Each failure is a lesson in balance, reliability, and the dangers of overcomplication. The best designs are those that work in the real world, not just on paper. By studying these missteps, we appreciate the weapons that got it right. Progress is built on the wreckage of bad ideas. Understanding failure is key to future success. If you enjoyed this look at design gone wrong, hit subscribe and tell us your pick for the worst weapon in the comments.